Hey guys, welcome to On the Stack. This is Victor, that is Tony, and it's presented to you by Gamer's Edge and GETV. But today, we have something a little special for you. We're going to take a little sidetrack on the stack, and we're going to do brew time. So basically, today we're going to rant on... Yeah, I don't even have anything, so I don't even know. But today... Oh, man. Today we're going to cover, brews. So some people want to know about brews and our opinions of what decks we play and stuff like that. So today we're going to cover a junk list that Tony's been working on for a little while.
It's junk.
It's junk. Yeah.
Well,
that's the thing we're going to do today. So in a little bit we're going to change views and we're going to go looking more into the deck so you can actually have a better look at what the deck layout looks like. But currently.
So at the beginning of the format, I was working on a junk list that was more similar to the list at the first Star City Open Dan Musser topped with, and very weird combination of Voice of Resurgence and whipping back Obsidat, because that was an interaction that we were all super hyped
really
about.
Nice, yeah.
It ran not as much removal. It didn't even touch Reaper of the Wilds yet.
Even though it's such a strong card.
It ran Elspeth in the main because it was Elspeth, and why wouldn't you just put her in there? It had some Sin Collectors. It was a different list, and I ran it at the beginning of the format. And it was very similar to a list Jake
Van Lunen, yeah, one of our boys.
To the Pro Tour that we kind of went on separate ways during our testing, but they came out to be pretty similar.
Yeah,
I actually saw some success with that list right as the Pro Tour came up at an invitational. So it's been a pet project. I mean, I've been playing other decks, but with the advent of Reed Duke's Prime Speaker Bant and Matt Costa's Jund list, and the great success the success Matt Costa's been seeing, and the tweaking and potential success that Reed's been seeing, especially online. I felt like it's time to revisit the deck. I felt like maybe there were cards in it the first time that didn't need to be there, and on the other end, maybe there were cards that should have been in there or should have been more numbers than there were.
I mean, decks evolve over time anyway.
Yeah.
As the meta changes and things get established, people try to break the meta, break other formats. So the deck's ever evolving always.
It's not a stale meta. I won't use that phrase. It's not stale at all, but it's defined. There are mono blue decks are top 8ing everywhere. Mono black decks are top 8ing everywhere. Then there's the unique fringe decks, but not really. On Moto, there's 3 different aggro decks. There's a mono red, there's a mono white, there's a mono white splashing red, there's a mono red splashing white, like the Boros hybrids. There's different kinds of aggro decks. So
I mean, you even still see green white. Green white aggro is still.
Green white aggro is still around.
Yeah.
It's kind of, that's where the mono white lists are basically just become the green white, but with more of the Zorius Detainers, I think.
Yeah.
They're good lists, and I feel like junk is now if Jund is successful in this format where you can pay for your Thoughtseizes and your what's the other card? Read the Bones, have no real life gain except for Scavenging Ooze, but still kind of come up for it. I thought, well, how great would it be if you could do all those but have built-in life gain in Blood Baron and in Obsidat? So I think I just tried to take in this brew the most powerful cards, and I definitely shaved cards like Elvish Mystic, which wasn't really where the deck wanted to be. It wasn't about casting 3-drops, and when it was about casting a Loxodon Smiter, which was great against some aggro matchups. Or it didn't really help casting Sin Collector, but Sin Collector was a very relevant card at the time, especially when Esper was one of the top decks. And Elvish Mystic really didn't do enough. And as it goes for Voice too, Voice just isn't really doing a lot either. The decks are either going right through it, like the mono blue and the mono black deck could care less about it. They can either just put up a wall that it can't swing through and do its normal 2 damage, and if you get the token, that's great, but you still need to flood the board with other irrelevant creatures while they're doing more powerful things like gaining better card access.
No.
So mono black voice was good against, but not phenomenal. It wasn't good against. It's not good against Jund now, obviously. Jund with the advent of.
I kind of feel like the deck you got to beat isn't Jund. I feel like the deck you want to be is mono black and devotionless. I mean, they're so consistent. That's how I feel.
No, absolutely.
That's why I'm also wary about playing 3-color decks. Like right now, I mean, I play the USA, but even me kind of looking at the list, it's like
that's the trade-off.
No,
it's the trade-off. Like you have to know that the cards you're adding and the colors you're doing are strong enough that you can afford to lose a little bit of the synergy the 1 or 2 color decks.
I mean, they're really consistent.
Yes.
They really are. Yeah, they're really consistent.
I found that it's targeted removal. Targeted removal is probably one of the best ways to deal with it, which is how Jund found. Jund is going to see some success now because it's Jund, and the second Jund does anything well, it floods everything.
Yeah,
that's what happens. So I just kind of took out them. I took out the whips. I thought that they were a very cute interaction. I thought that they were great at kind of stabilizing life, but all in all, I think that I've played more games where I didn't care if I drew one or I scryed it away with either a Scryland or Read the Bones than ever having it. And the times where having it would have won, so would have Blood Baron. So it was kind of like redundant. And the last thing I made, the change I made to the deck, and this is something not a lot of people agree with me with, is I cut Elspeth. Because when you don't have the early aggression, you're not a control list that can protect her as well as other decks do. So you're not...
I feel it's just a catch-22.
What, Elspeth?
Yeah, that's how I feel. I feel like she's a catch-22. There's certain instances where she's really good, she's really strong, puts a bunch of things on the board. You know, she's a planeswalker, really hard to deal with. But there are times where it's kind of like too much mana, 6 mana, already a little too late.
And on top of it, she's 6 mana at a cost that doesn't wipe small creatures. So even if you manage to stay alive for 6 turns and cast her against
she kills the
an
big
aggro
beefies,
deck, she's not going to kill a bunch of Ash Zealots.
So
and the 3/1/1s, that wasn't really where I felt the deck needed to be, was eventually just overrun them. So I cut them, and I went to a more creature-based and removal spell-based approach, and that's what we're gonna break down the deck.
Let's just do that. Let's just go. We're gonna go.
To the deck. So there's gonna be a cut, and the next thing you know, you're gonna see a deck.
We're gonna see a deck. And we're gonna go a little bit into that as well. Yeah. Okay. Cool. All right.
Alrighty, guys. So here's the deck. It's the 60-card deck, exploded view.
Guys, we're back. Just saying. Okay, continue.
Oh.
All right, go.
Oh, okay. We're back, apparently. No, it's the exploded view. So it might be a little hard to see. We're going to bring the cards up as we go here. But here is the deck. This is the main deck. We'll get to the sideboard a little later. This is where I've been seeing some success with. This is where I feel like Junk wants to be right now, or maybe a little bit of a standard deviation. So we're going to start at the top. The creatures are broken down by curve. We're going to start over here with the Scavenging Ooze. Now, Scavenging Ooze got a lot of love at the beginning, and then it kind of fell off. And I think it's back now. It's a nice early chump blocker. Late game against the aggro matchups, it'll gain you a little bit of life that you need to kind of stabilize. When you run as many removal spells as this deck runs, it becomes kind of ridiculous later too. So it's more like a 4-drop that only costs 2 mana than a 2-drop unless you're on your back foot. We go straight to a 4 of Sylvan Catarrh. Now we're going to talk about why I cut the Elvish Mystic. The 1 green accelerant to turn 2 is only good if you're trying to cast 3-drops or like Boon State or something in. I tried that in this deck. Boon State is not really where this deck wants to be unless I'm going pure aggro, and I don't. But Catarrh, it blocks very well. It can't be spot removed. On a Devour Flesh, I end up gaining 3 life, which is pretty cute sometimes, especially because of all the life I'll be paying. So
you kind of more like need it.
And it fixes the mana that's kind of relevant because there's a couple of spells in this deck, especially around turn 3 and 4, that you're going to need doubles of, which we'll get to as we go along. The other card, the 3 of, one of my favorite cards in the format, if I've probably mentioned in maybe 1 or 2 other videos, Reaper of the Wild.
Really strong card.
Right?
Not really. I mean, it's really strong.
It's
really rocky.
Extremely versatile. Yeah. Dies to Dark Betrayal.
Man,
if
fuck
I'm
Turbo Child.
no,
She
like,
come in here and fuck your day out.
that's
No
what I
matter
mean. Like
happens, so it don't
it's
even matter.
really good against a lot of the main deck removal spells. The Scry is super relevant, especially when paired with all the removal you have.
Oh look, it's called Synergy, guys.
Yeah,
Oh.
it can't be Selesnya Charmed. Really good card. It's also really good when you're also playing Desecration Demon. Now, the reason I'm running Desecration Demon
Besides the fact
over
he's a big
Pelucranos,
bully and beats the shit out of people.
over Pelucranos is I don't feel like I'm attempting to hit a lot of land drops. I don't want to hit a lot of land drops. I don't want to really monstrous him and get in for 5. I really just kind of want a Desecration Demon to go along with the you shouldn't have creatures effects. Now, he's not as strong as Pelucranos against a lot of the aggro decks because they can just overwhelm him. But when you run,
like Demon way better.
But when you run as many removal spells, I mean, I am running 12 removal spells. No, he's the same as Pelucranos. They're both 4. It's just
well, I don't like Pelucranos. He's a fucking douchebag.
I'm not a huge fan. He's a good card, but I'm not. I'm running 12 removal spells in this deck. Desecration Demon shines when you're running a lot of removal, so you can always clear the way. And then the beat sticks, the monsters in the deck, Blood Baron of Viscopa, and Obsidat. You know what they do. Blood Baron, the number was more Obsidats at one point. Obsidat is kind of like a finisher. It's not about just getting one to resolve, which is where the decks were at the first point. They were just ramp to 5, get Obsidat to resolve. Now it's more about resolving a Blood Baron and playing the do they have a Supreme Verdict or Mizzium Mortars game. And if they don't, well, Blood Baron's usually going to take over the game. If they do, your Obsidat's clear, usually. So Blood Baron, the one thing I do like about the way this deck is formed right now is your threats pre-Obsidat must be dealt with right now threats, which is why I don't run Loxodon Smiter so much, because it's easy to deal with them. Reaper's not easy to deal with. Desecration Demon's not easy to deal with. Blood Baron's not easy to deal with, and so when they're forced to deal with them using like a board wipe or a pretty narrow spell, or even like a Selesnya Charm against Desecration Demon, Obsidat comes in and is able to clear the way. They're able to clear the way for Obsidat, which is put the game down at the end. So we're done with the creatures now. We're going to go to spells. 3 Thoughtseize. 4 is just a little too many in the main. If you know how to use Thoughtseize, Thoughtseize is a card that punishes bad players but rewards good players. Very rarely do I play it on turn 1 in this match. I usually play it when my next turn I'm going to follow up with a bomb, or I'm afraid a deck's about to pull something else. The only time I actually do play it early is against aggro, because I want to take their threats earlier, and then the card comes out usually, so it's not really a big deal. 4 of Abrupt Decay. This card has paid dividends. I've been talking about it. I love it. It's pretty much the only matchup it's not amazing in is mono blue, because it doesn't kill the one thing you always want to kill, and it can't kill Thassa, but it kills any of their devotion creatures. Mono black, it kills, same thing, not as much. It gets rid of a pack rat, it gets rid of the Nightveil Spectre, and it gets rid of an Underworld Connections in the main, which can be really strong if they're trying to pull ahead. A lot of matchups, control, it can deal with the detention spheres, kills Boros Reckoners, Abrupt Decay, one of the strongest removal spells in the format. Then I have a 2-2 split in the other 1 black drops. I have Ultimate Price over Doomblade. Abrupt Decay deals with every card that I would have to have a Doomblade for in the early game. In the late game, I'm not super worried about Rurik Thar, where I would not be able to deal with it in one of the other removal spells, or possibly just have a creature out that's a bigger threat anyway. So I'm not panicked about not running Doomblade in the main. Ultimate Price seems to do what it needs to, especially against cards like Stormbreath Dragon, Desecration Demon in the mirror matchups, even, like any mono black control deck. And Devour Flesh is kind of like a personal choice. I didn't want to run more Ultimate Prices. I didn't want to run Doomblades because I back from the Mirrodin block, I hated when we had the go for the throat Doomblade mix, and you never knew which was the right one to run, or if it was okay to run X and X, because I felt like if I had the Doomblade and I needed to go for the throat, I'd be upset. And same here, if I had Doomblade and I needed Ultimate Price, I'd be really upset. But Devour Flesh is still a removal spell, especially in the early game, that's really strong, and it deals with Blood Baron. 4 Heroes Downfall, because it's Heroes Downfall, and you need 4 of them. Like, there's no other argument about it. Like, it kills everything you need to kill, and it kills Planeswalkers, which this deck is fairly weak to, especially if you get them out faster than I do. Like Domri Raid can be a problem. Abrupt Decay does deal with it, but Xenagos, Elspeth, these are problems they have to deal with. Read the bones.
No.
2 Read the Bones. 3 was a little too much for my taste. I didn't need the filtering that much. I'm only running 24 lands. But 2 seemed right for the hitting that 1 land drop when I need it, or the 1 color of a land when I need it. And as we all know, Read the Bones on an empty board is probably the best time to cast it. So if I'm removing early, cast a Read the Bones on turn 3 or 4 after my opponent has nothing left to do, I'm probably going to be golden. Last spell is Advent of the Worm. I've been in a love-hate relationship with Advent of the Worm. Originally, it was Loxodon Smiter, and that was a really good card. But Loxodon Smiter is just another card that's weak to Blood Baron, and this entire deck is fairly weak to Blood Baron, even though I have my own. So I didn't really want to just lean on, like, my Scavenging Ooze can get big. If you're running Blood Baron, you're probably running removal. And I didn't want to count on Devour Flesh being the only answer to Blood Baron. So Advent of the Worm is a pretty strong answer for Blood Baron. It's also a very, very good way to turn a mid-range deck into an aggro deck. It's almost every time I have the opportunity to, it gets cast on turn 3 with the Sylvan Cataract down on turn 2. The untap, the land drop, my opponent passes their turn, Advent of the Worm, and now here's my beat stick that you have to deal with. I might even follow up with a Reaper just in case. Like, the follow-ups are just really strong. It's a really good end-of-turn spell. But my mana base is a little weird. So when we look at the mana base, it's got...
Well, it's 24 lands, right?
The 24 lands. It's got the stock 16. If it runs the colors and it's a duel, I run it. So 4 Temple of Silence, 4 Godless Shrine, 4 Temple Gardens, and 4 Overgrown Tombs. The issue I found is sometimes I like Golgari Guildgate, sometimes I don't. With cards like Mana Barbs, Burning Earth still around.
Yeah, Burning Earth.
I'm not a huge fan of it. I'd rather just run more basics. Let me just pull that up. So right now the basic list is 3 forests, 3 swamps, and 2 plains. Plains, truthfully, I don't very often need to hit more than 1 plains in the early game. Very rarely do I ever need to hit a plains. It's only for the occasional Advent of the Worm. I'd rather always hit green. I'd rather be able to cast my Sylvan Catarids on curve. And swamps, the same thing. I'd rather be able to cast my Desecration Demons on curve. So this is the main. We're about to cut and then bring up the sideboard. Sideboard's a little bit different because it's a very meta-reliant sideboard. You need to do a little bit of research. You can't just throw this deck together and take it with you. But, we'll get right to that. Okay, guys, and we're back, and here's the sideboard. Pretty simple sideboard. I'm going to fly through it real quick because there's more important things to talk about than the cards I chose to show you. Pithing Needle, really good against Planeswalkers. Aether Wing's a pain in the ass. Gotta play it. Underworld Connections, I know, I'm already running Read the Bones, yes, and Underworld Connections. I'm running them both. They never switch. They're either both in or neither in. It's just a great card. It's really good for grinding out the long games.
Card advantage.
Doomblade. Doomblade can easily be Dark Betrayal. I chose Doomblade because I had them laying around, and I haven't really had a problem where I didn't need the Doomblades. Like against Mono Blue, Doomblade is far superior to Ultimate Price because it kills everything in their deck except Nightveil Spectre, where Ultimate Price kills everything except Judge's Familiar and Nightveil Spectre and Frostburn Weird. So Doomblade's usually just a better removal spell in those matchups, but Ultimate Price is still better overall when they have less numbers of the early drops. If you can't read them, these are Unflinching Courages. They could also be Gift of Orzhova. Depends on how you feel. I like the Trample and the +2/+2 when combined with cards like... honestly, I've put them on Obsidat. I've stopped linking them because at that point, the 7/7 lifelinker slightly stronger than the 2 life swing a turn. So, I put it on Reaper. If I've ever put that on a Reaper, it's usually the end of the game because the follow-up is land drop, put that on Reaper, have the hexproof ability available, you lose. Scry, do 1 damage, Death Touch, it's just so powerful. Golgari Charms, there could be 4 in here. This card's amazing. It comes in so many matchups. It comes in Mono Blue, it comes in sometimes. Comes in a lot of the aggro decks that have the 1 toughness, like the Mono White deck. Really strong card. The destroying an enchantment thing is also relevant against the decks that run the What's that card? Makes the 1/1s. Assemble the Legion. That card. Really good against that. Whatever. I don't see that card. I play good decks. Against good decks. Miscutter Hydra because it wins.
Yeah, I know.
It wins. It wins the game against Mono Blue. Like, Scavenger Ooze comes out, Miscutter Hydra comes in. Game. That they can't do anything. They just die. It's over. Same thing with Esper Control, except they do have board wipes, but that's fine. Miscutter Hydra will usually just win the game against them. The one Vraska used to be a Deadbridge chant, went back to Vraska. It's pretty solid card. It's a good way to deal with like detention spheres. Good way to deal with just permanents you don't normally have a way to deal with. And I don't even ultimate it anymore. I don't even try to. Every time I do, I lose the game because of some random situation. So I just keep, plussing her until I can destroy something. And then one more Thoughtseize. I'm choosing not to run Duress. I don't think I need it. I think in any situation where I'd have the Duress, I have the life gain backup that I don't need to also take away a Sphinx's Rev with Duress. And I don't want too many of that effect because I don't ever think I'm going to be the control deck in a matchup. I think I'm going to either be the stabilize and then beat them to death deck, mid-range, or I'm going to be the pure beatdown all the time deck. And just hitting my threats is more important. Hitting my land drops, hitting my threats than ever having a Duress. This is the actual sideboard that I've been using. That's because I know my meta. This is an extremely meta-reliant deck. So the Doomblades, Pithing Needles, these numbers can be completely messed with. You obviously have access to cards like Lockdown Smiter. If there's a lot of Jund in your format, you absolutely want Lockdown Smiter, so their Rakdos returns are gone. Dark Betrayal, if there's a lot of Mono Black, or Jund, or a Mirror Match for some reason. You definitely want to hit it. Deadbridge Chant may be good for you. The other Primeval Bounty may be good for you. These cards are all very phenomenal over Vraska. You have Celestial Flare, which I wouldn't run, but you have Glare of Heresy. If green-white or mono-white or any X-white deck is being played, you absolutely want to run that instead. It's completely dependent on your meta, which gives your deck a better chance. I think the main deck is fairly good. In my testing, I've gone over 50% against a lot of matchups. The only matchup I have not gone over 50% is mono blue with perfect curve out. I've never been able to beat that deck. I've never been able to draw out of that deck. Mono blue going Cloudfin into I'm dead. I can't do anything. But you know what? Sometimes that happens. I can't do anything about it. Other than that, the sideboard, you have access to what I feel are the three most powerful colors in the format when combined. I do not think any other colors combined. I think white-green, I think green-black, I think black-white have the most powerful cards in them when you take the guilds. I think when you get to do this kind of interaction, you're just so much stronger. So that's my junk list. Hopefully you like it and you'll give it a test. Play it on Magic Online, play it at F&M. I know I'll be playing it at a tournament this weekend. I'm not sure when this is going to go up, but it might be last weekend. And hopefully I'll win another series of money playing Junk because I think Junk is just where you want to be, and Blood Baron is the card you want, the creature you want to be casting. So, Vic, want to do the send-off?
All right, guys, this is On the Stack. This is the Brew Time edition of On the Stack. I am Victor. This is Tony, presenting you by Gamer's Edge and GETV. I hope you guys had a good time and learned something.
And tune in next week for Victor's Brew.
Oh, buddy! Awkward!
Yo, you want me to build your deck too?
Man, fuck you, guy.